We will call the Plan Commission meeting to order. Call to order. Roll call.
Mayor Teestrake.
Present.
Councilmember O'Reilly. Here. Mr. Frederick. Here. Mr. Piles. Here. Mr. Caprillion. Here. Mr. Piles, I'm sorry, and Ms. Besler and Ms. Veith are not here. Did I say Mr. Frederick? I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's been a weird last couple hours.
It's been a very weird.
I apologize to all you guys for the wait and everybody here as well. We do have a quorum.
Wonderful. Item 3, approval of agenda. Thank you. Second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you. The agenda has been approved. And second, item 4, approval of minutes from the November 21st, 2023 meeting. Alderman Piles,
okay.
Yes. And second? Second by John.
Okay.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Before we go farther, I would like to thank John for stepping in when I was gone for 3 months. Thank you very much for your, and everybody else for your undivided good stuff going on.
Appreciate
and I'm back and here we are. Thank goodness. I'm very happy to be back too. Number 5, identify potential conflicts of interest. Please be advised per City Policy 3.340 that any member of the body shall declare a conflict if they have any interest, financial or otherwise, direct or indirect, or engage in a business or transaction or professional activity, or incur an obligation of any nature that is in conflict with the proper discharge of the body's official duties. I see no conflicts. We can go on to item 6, citizens' comments. Item 7, conditional use permit request by Olivia Vander Heiden. Thank you. Alliance Construction and Design, representing B&B Marshfield Scrap, to allow for a salvage or junkyard land use as a conditional use in the GI, General Industrial Zoning District, located at 2609 East 4th Street, parcel 33-03412 AB. Presenter, Bryce Hamburg, planner.
Thank you, Mayor. So there's a lot of information provided in the packet, as well as the plan of operation narrative that was submitted by the applicant. So I'm just going to give a brief high-level presentation, since I know that the meeting's running late. So the property is located on the east side of the city, located near the intersection of 4th Street and Galvin. This area is generally an industrial area. There is some vacant land to the north, and north of the vacant land, there is some residential. But generally, this area, there's Carbo Ceramics is out here. There's storage to the south. So generally, you're in the GI district, as you can see from the map as well as light industrial to the south. And then a little bit further to the southwest is a gas station zone, community mixed use. In 2020, there was actually a CUP, the initial use permit that was approved for this site for a salvage and junkyard land use. So it was a very similar request, however, it was a different applicant and slightly different plan. But it was approved, and many of the conditions that are included in the staff report are similar to the ones that were approved in 2020. That project just never went forward. A new applicant stepped in. And so this is, like I said, a slightly different request, but pretty similar to what the Plan Commission reviewed, well, probably close to 4 years now. So the applicant also, or 4 years, in 2020, there was also a variance that allowed for buildings and activity areas to be located within basically up to the property line due to the lot's irregular shape. That variance was still one with the property. So that's one of the requirements for this land use, is that there would generally be a 50-foot requirement for any activity areas and buildings, but they got that exempted, so that would still run with the property. As you can see on the screen here, there's going to be 2 main buildings that will be used for this use for indoor storage of these materials. And then there would also be an office building with a scale that would be located on the site. They are proposing a fence to run along the perimeter of the property, and they would have gates, 2 electric gates and 1 manual gate. Overall, as I mentioned, it's a pretty industrial area. We feel that it's appropriate in this location. There was the plan of operation narrative that kind of describes in greater detail what they're looking to do out there, what type of materials they're looking to have on site. Those are included in the staff report and in the narrative. So we won't really necessarily go into those in great detail unless you guys want me to. But this is ultimately what the buildings will look like. And this will, the top picture would be the small office scale. So here's just kind of a brief list of what they would generally accept, what they would not accept. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of go over my recommendation with the conditions. I'll give you just a second to kind of look this over. But overall, there's not really a need for new utilities on the site. It's already existing. So due to multiple reasons that are listed in the staff report, my recommendation was to approve this request with the following conditions. And so condition number 1 would be any driveway used for exit traffic onto 4th Street shall be hard surface from the edge of 4th Street for a distance of 50 feet north of the south property line within 1 year of approval of the CUP. Number 2, proper entrance and exit signage shall be posted. Number 3, material piles may not exceed a height of 30 feet. Number 4, a 6 to 8 foot security and privacy fence of base shall be installed. Number 5, smelting and open burning are not permitted. Number 6, applicants must obtain and maintain all required registrations and licensing, as well as any other additional permits or licensing from the city, the DNR, or the DOT. Number 7, the applicant must implement fugitive dust emissions management practices. Number 8, any handling, disposing, or storing of hazardous materials shall meet all local, state, and federal regulations. Number 9, operations may not begin before 7 a.m. or end after 7 p.m. And number 10, minor site plan changes may be administratively approved. So those are the conditions. I believe that the applicant is in attendance in case there's any additional questions, and I can certainly try to help answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryce. We'll open up for a public hearing. Are there any comments from any public? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Okay, so
Any discussion from the members?
any discussion from the members? Any concerns?
Yes. Just a second.
Franklin?
I'm trying to get my concerns.
Okay, perfect. Take your time.
Okay, so besides the refrigerants, I'm concerned about, I guess I have 3 questions that are basically swirl around the issue of contaminants. So I think, there's more hazardous materials in junked automobiles than just refrigerants from the air conditioning. There's oils. I mean, they drain all the oils, but you have junked an automobile and it's sitting there, gradually oil will leak out. More oil will leak out of it. Other liquids, perhaps, from the transmissions, all kinds of things, gradually that will leak out of it. And so that leads me to another question is, after this usage, it's easy to say, well, there'll be a junkyard there and it'll meet all these requirements, but what about 30 years from now? Is there any other possible, after that happens, would there be any other possible use for that parcel other than a junkyard? Would it be, after these kind of things, contaminants have leaked into the ground and so on over maybe a decade or more, would there any possible future use for that parcel? And is that any concern? Certainly people couldn't live there. Would anything else be able to be used there? Like an office or anything like that?
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I mean,
Hard to say, right?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, if it's a site that requires some sort of cleanup or DNR review, I mean, it's possible. I'm not anticipating that, but I can't rule out what you're saying.
Yeah. And who monitors the compliance from the list D on the list, or anyway, the idea that there's must meet all local, state, and federal requirements. Who monitors compliance to federal? Are we expecting that the federal government will really be sending an inspector into this little junkyard? Or do they do that?
Bryce, how would that one likely play out if it was believed to be a concern, you know?
Yeah, and I don't know if the applicant is ready to speak on, you know, the state and federal licensing. I think that the last time when we talked about this in 2020, the DNR, you know, would review, I believe that the DNR would issue a permit, and then they would track that. And then as far as the federal, you know, I don't know exactly how that's enforced. I just know that it's usually pretty, there's plenty of regulations, and then they keep track. I don't know all the details, so I don't know if the applicant is maybe there to kind of touch on that.
I realize that, you know, they're by the railroad, and a railroad in and of itself produces, I mean, a railroad like the one that comes through Marshfield probably has, that roadway there, the railroad way, probably has unbelievable contaminants under it. I mean, it's just hard to say. I mean, I count it, anyway, I won't go into that. But, you know, I mean, this is a plan commission, so I'm trying to think, you know, long range as well as just does it meet the requirements of the moment, so to speak. It meets, you know, technically the framework, but I just wonder, you know, about that. And I'm thinking especially also, like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know if you've addressed this, and maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but, you know, because always concerned about the water supply for Marshfield, which is not a flowing water supply, i.e. it's not a river, but it is an underground aquifer kind of thing. Water seeps in. And if we have contaminants, hazardous material coming in from, you know, a place like this over a decade, then that's, would seem to me, will go into our water supply. I don't know. But I don't know if you, maybe not. I mean, you know, like, I don't have a map. I don't think on the comprehensive plan, there's a map of the underground system. I didn't see one anyway. But I just have a little concerns about that. You know, I mean, I appreciate we need junkyards. I'm not against junkyard per se. I am just asking these as kind of due diligence questions. Have we addressed these issues? And what are the possible impact, you know, long run for the site? And, you know, can we satisfy those concerns? I'd say, you know, the water issue and the future land use, I guess you know, it's a small parcel. So if you said 20 years from now, the junkyard's gone and somebody wants to build something and we go, and if, you know, the Environmental Protection Agency comes in and says, this soil is contaminated, well, it's just in some ways tough luck. It's not that big. And you can say, nope, no human being is ever going to, you know, have an office here or anything like that ever again, ever, because there's stuff in there. Who knows what it is, you know. But the water issue is an issue. And cars, you know, like the reality is there's, you know, cars have a lot of things in them now. They have high level, you know, components from batteries, you know, cadmium and mercury and other things. It's not just oil, not just Freon, whatever they're using now. There's all kinds of things will go into the soil. I don't think there's any way you can say that won't. So, you have any response to that? Should we look at this a little further or what? What do you guys, I don't know what the rest of the commission thinks, but those are my concerns about it. The location, I don't have any concerns about any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Did you say something, Bryce?
Yes.
Yeah. If I could just jump in. So I'm looking at the DNR's website right now about complying with the regulations for salvage and junkyard. And it mentions environmental regulations established by the Wisconsin DNR or the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency all have procedures by which a business has to demonstrate to each agency that it meets each of the requirements. So when the DNR or the EPA perform an inspection or request records and they find that they're not in compliance, they are able to, enforce the violation, whether it's fines, whether it's, remediation or mitigation. So this is kind of a relatively highly regulated type of land use. So as far as I understand, the DNR would be able to do inspections. As to your questions about, the impact on the groundwater, that's a little bit out of the realm of my expertise, but certainly, something to consider.
About a mile down the road on A there's that junkyard. I'm not sure where the Wood County Hospital was years ago. Has there been anything about groundwater contamination from there? Because I've never heard of it.
Not that I'm aware of, but I wouldn't necessarily be the first person to be aware of that either. But I've not heard of anything of that.
Yes, Mike.
Thank you. Well, I do understand the concerns. I think there's only certain tools that we can use to determine what the liability is. And with those rules comes liability if that doesn't happen. And like I said, the concerns are real, but I think if we're meeting all the requirements of the agencies that are doing it, or we've got rules in place to force that compliance, I don't see any way that we can't really move forward with it. Unless there's something I'm missing here, I would definitely have no choice but to approve it the way it's presented.
I find myself agreeing with what Mike is saying. The concerns are very real, totally. But if we get people plugged in, make sure they're getting the proper approvals from the DNR, the DOT, and maintaining, what they're supposed to, it's more of the state's issue than ours, because I'm not sure who locally would track and monitor all this anyway.
So as I understand, the Department of Natural Resources will come out. I mean, it just says here that they have to, maintain all required registration, licenses, permits.
Perhaps we could ask the applicant about what their experience is with licensure with their existing site.
Do you want to go up to the, yep, and then there's a little button you push on the bottom of the microphone.
Who is this? Is this the applicant?
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, I'm Olivia Vanderheiden, and I'm the applicant on behalf of Eric Burrows and B&B Scrap Metal. So to address some of the things that were talked about earlier, so in regards to the vehicles and the salvage vehicles being brought in, the intent on that is to bring the vehicles in that building A, or the larger building that you'll see on the site plan. They will be put up on a lift and drained of all fluids. And those fluids will be stored in the building in containers permitted by code and quantities permitted by code. Other fluids will be stored on site in tanks, again, that are permitted by code and rated appropriately. And then in regards to, I guess, oils and things on site, with them being drained in the facility and being stored on tanks or in tanks, the fluids and materials won't stay on the lot for an extended amount of time. So there's another facility in Green Bay that the scrap metal that will be stored on site from the vehicles, it will be brought over to that facility. So it won't be like it's been sitting on the site for years or,
Can you speak to the licensure and how often you get visits from the DNR and the other various agencies that are referenced in the packet here?
Yeah, so in regards to the DNR, that's something that I can look into further and see the permits that we're going to need to apply for. But my understanding is with other sites like the Green Bay site or the Marinette site, that this facility that they also have, they have regular building inspectors come out, just do their routine checks, probably annually, to just check on, make sure everything's compliant, hazardous materials in check. So my understanding is that it's just the typical, building inspection, fire inspection.
Yeah. I have a related question or different question, I guess. In the scrapyard world, are there any remediation requirements should the site be discontinued as a scrapyard? Like I know with like a gravel pit or a sand mine or something like that, you have to do remediation after the site is done with its current use. Does that exist in the scrapyard world?
Not that I'm aware of. It's something I can definitely look into, just being in the phase of building or remodeling the building. I guess we're not thinking to that point quite yet.
But with your existing experience though, with other sites?
Yes, that's not something that I've come across in the
Okay.
past. Brett, have you? Okay.
Just point of curiosity.
Yeah, but it's definitely something we can check into along with the DNR requirements and inspections.
Thank you, Lou.
Okay, yeah, thanks for enlightening us on those points.
And Franklin, does that give you a little?
Well, I'll vote for it, but I wish there was a votes with great hesitancy. I would really like to have more of a report. Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Sorry, I wish there was a little more investigation into some of these issues. I don't know how that can be done. I mean, the councilman, points these things out. I understand that. I understand that we're working within a certain set box, so to speak. We're in a certain box, so to speak. But, where does our overall responsibility to the city, which, may extend beyond the box into the health and welfare? I mean, I would point out that the legislation that empowers the city to have a plan commission, calls for the plan commission to act for the health and welfare of the city. You know what I mean? So, that councilman, that there's a certain regulatory box that we're in, but on the other hand, the state of Wisconsin has laid on the plan commission and on city council, a wider framework that it is to work in. And I guess I'm saying, not that I would vote against, like I say, I understand we have to have junkyards, right? But do we have all the information? Have we done all the due diligence that we should? That's my question. And basically, I feel like I'm hearing we haven't. I'd hate for us to just dodge around and say we haven't, we're in a box. I'm wondering, can that more due diligence be done?
The challenging thing for us, and I respect your question totally, the challenging thing for us is some of the things we go through, and I'm going to go beyond this particular application, is when the enforcement entity and the laws that affect what they do are federal or state in nature and not local in nature.
Right,
so,
I understand that too.
The fire chief and the public works director and those kind of folks are not well suited to do the types of
right.
Compliance checks and enforcement you're looking at. So we depend upon people like the DNR to do their job. But what you're saying is, do things fall through the crack if they come out once a year? Is that safeguarding our residents? I mean, that's an interesting question. But it's really normally beyond I shouldn't say beyond the purview, but beyond the scope of what we normally do here to be monitoring the types of environmental issues that I think you're referring to in general. Not that the fire department couldn't come across some of that if they were doing an inspection perhaps, but it's not our normal book of business.
Yeah, I would. Go ahead, Bryce.
Sorry. Okay. One of the options that the Planning Commission always has is to table the request for further information, further study. So if there are specific things that you would like to know that the applicant should bring back to the next meeting, we can certainly, if you guys vote on it, to table. I would just ask that you guys would be pretty specific on what exactly you're looking for in your information. Is that, it sounds like DNR, the procedure as well as, the inspections. Some of the questions may be pretty difficult to answer without a full environmental consulting coming in. So I guess I would just suggest if you would like to table it, to just make sure that it's clear to the applicant applicant what they should be researching and bringing forward to you at the next meeting.
Well, I'm not ready to do that. I'm not ready to table because I don't have a specific enough, and I also don't want to dump city council and, the city administration into a rabbit hole on this. If it was, I guess for my own, I drove by it today, and familiar with the site. I live near, somewhat, over there. I guess if it was a larger site, I would be more concerned. It is kind of a postage stamp,
Right.
and so on. And then what the presenter, sorry, I forgot your name. Olivia. Oh, Shakespearean name. So, sorry.
That's all right. It's great.
Well, she said that the automobiles won't stay there long, right? Is that what I understood?
Correct.
That you ship them over to Green Bay, and then they're Green Bay's problem.
Yep, let them have it, yeah.
Goodbye. Anyway, okay, so I guess I would just close off just by encouraging the city maybe to have a little wider net when some of these kind of things come in. Not that we can do environmental studies, I know, but I don't know what, maybe the state should be activated more on this kind of thing, like, hello, we have this problem, we have this issue here. How's it going to impact our groundwater? Really, at the bottom of all my concerns is,
maybe, Bryce, we can talk about this offline. Maybe you've been through this before in your time here or elsewhere, but maybe we could get a sense on some of these types of things, what the DNR would do. In other words, if in fact something like this is approved, what does it mean in terms of what they would look at or how often they would check or enforce to make sure that things are going properly? I have no idea sitting here in my chair tonight. None.
And as far as I understand it, the exact permits and inspections really depends on what exactly is being proposed on the site, just based on different types of materials that they're salvaging. So, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to provide a cookie cutter list of, this is exactly what they'll be looking at. I think it really just depends on the specific proposal. So, yeah, we could certainly look into what is generally required, but like I said, it could change based on different project requests. And as far as I know, this has been the only property where anyone has really looked for a junkyard land use. And since I was working with in Marshfield in 2017, so not really a use that too many people are looking to get into in Marshfield as of right now. But we can certainly look into that in the future.
Mike?
Thank you. Yeah, once again, these are real concerns. I also reiterate what the gentleman had said. I still go back to the same requirement, though, is we have mentioned the regulatory bodies that have to administer this oversight, and we really don't have a capability to do it ourselves. I think it's a little too much to imagine that we could pick out any potential contaminant that may be used there. I even without the conditional use permit, they would still be tied into these regulatory agencies, and it's the governing bodies that cover this. So I can't for the life of me come up with any way that I think we would have a better judgment than these agencies that are set up to do this work. So with that, I would make a motion to approve it and move forward.
Second.
Was that second?
Yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, guys.
Just a reminder, and I think I need to remind everybody this too, that conditional use permits, when they're recommended for approval for this body, still require council final approval. That will be through the consent agenda on January 9th. Thank you very much.
Item 8, Campus Master Plan Amendment Request by Matt Johannick. POB Incorporated, representing Columbus Catholic Schools, to review and approve a proposed amendment to the Columbus Catholic Schools Campus Master Plan to allow for a new parking area and revise the campus site plan for the campus located at 710 South Columbus Avenue, 33-03354A, 1414 West 5th Street, 33-03354, and parcel 33-03353I, all currently zoned CD Campus Development District. Presenter Bryce Hembrook, planner.
Thank you, Mayor. So most of you are familiar with some of the Columbus Catholic school campuses. There was a campus master plan approved for this campus in February of 2023. So the campus master plan basically takes a look at the existing facilities on the site as an inventory, and then it also proposes some new land uses, new projects, and pretty much any projects that are listed in the campus master plan and that are also identified as being administratively, or are able to be administratively approved, can be administratively approved by staff. So on the screen here, you can see the current master plan, the current site plan for the master plan. And the area in the red is generally the area that we'll be discussing. So it is to the south of the Our Lady of Peace Church. So originally there's existing parking, there's a stormwater basin area, and then a proposed future softball field addition. And essentially what they want to do is get rid of the softball area, move the stormwater area, and then propose 99 stalls to be added. If you guys, I believe most of you were here in February. At one point, there were about 74 parking stalls proposed to be located to the east of Columbus Avenue. Due to neighborhood opposition, the campus decided, Columbus School District decided to remove that from their plans. And I think ultimately with the new field house, they still want to add some more parking on site. So I think this is, what kind of led to them wanting to change this layout. So ultimately, the majority of the campus master plan itself is remaining the same. The map as shown has been updated. There's also a parking inventory that was updated to show the 99 parking stalls. So it's a relatively minor change. I think that it's an appropriate, I think it would be appropriate to add more parking. When we were approving the field house, we were originally talking about maybe there's more parking that's needed. There's plenty of on-street site parking stalls, but I think with the larger tournaments, this would be a benefit for the campus itself. One thing to note is that generally there's landscaping requirements for new parking areas. The campus master plan actually does not allow for exceptions through the campus master plan. So if they would like to go for exceptions, they would have to come back through Plan Commission, or they would have to meet the requirements. So just want to mention that this is simply a request to change the campus master plan and to change the campus master plan site plan. And so with this, there would be just about 600 total parking stalls that would be located on the campus or on the on-street parking of the 4 adjacent streets. So quite a bit of parking provided for that overall site. So with that, the recommendation would be to approve the request to update the Columbus Catholic Schools Campus Master Plan to allow for a new parking area and revise the campus site plan for the campus located at 1710 South Columbus Avenue, 1414 West 5th Street, and then the other parcel to the east of Columbus. With the following findings, the campus master plan is consistent with the requirements of Chapter 18 of the city's municipal code. And number 2, the projects included in the amended campus master plan can be administratively approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryce. We'll open the public hearing. Any comments? We will close the public hearing. Thank you. And gentlemen, any questions for Mr. Johannick?
Yeah, questioning the need for the additional 100 stalls. I think when we're talking about like max capacity need, how often is that really going to be happening? And like, 2 nights out of the year, what's the number? And I think there is a lot of parking on street within like 2 or 3 blocks of Columbus. So I think it's available. I mean, if given the choice, I personally would rather just see a softball field or green space as it exists today rather than additional parking that I think is minimally needed. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Honick, would you like to approach and sell yourself? How's that?
Actually, I'm David Eaton. I'm the president of Columbus Catholic Schools.
Okay.
And the proposal is not so much about a need for parking spots as it is a way of preventing the destruction of the Our Lady of Peace church parking lot during the construction phase of the project. We're going to have heavy equipment on site, including some trucks that are holding building panels. And so we originally looked at this spot to the south of the OOP lot as a good staging area where we could put those things. And as it turned out, it is just as economical to prepare the site as if we were going to build a permanent lot and pave it at the end, than just fill it with material that would then need to be removed. So that was the proposal. If we have to prepare it as if we will pave it, then why not get the 99 parking stalls at the end of the day? And that's really what this amendment to the campus plan is about. We've got to use that area to prevent destruction of the church lot, and not just destruction because heavy equipment is going to be driving on it, but there are going to be things that need to park there for a substantial amount of time pending their use on the construction. We can't take up the half of the church parking lot during the entire construction phase.
Yes, Mike.
Thank you. The one thing I do like about it is I know those roads can get quite congested with parking too. So as much as I agree with the earlier comment, it also could clean up those roads a little bit during the events or when things are going on. So from that perspective, I like it. I guess the only question I have is, would the intent be to keep the parking lot there then?
Yes. Once we finish the construction of the field house, we would pave and keep that lot then for the use of the field house, really to minimize any conflict with church masses on Saturdays that might start while we have a tournament wrapping up. And it would relieve some of the congestion on the street during just our we got girls varsity there right now. It's probably just wrapping up. And parking is pretty tight. Now, of course, our largest event, yes, those 2 nights a year, Alpine Holiday, this would relieve a lot of the congestion on the streets.
I actually had to walk 4 blocks when I parked there to go to. So I went home and walked there. And I'm not disabled, so if somebody comes in, you know what I mean? And 2 nights, but yet again, if the parking lot's there, this may be an opportunity to grow more for Columbus Catholic in the future. And I think that's exciting.
Thanks for enlightening us on the need for the construction. That's interesting detail that we were not aware of.
I know that it's not an obvious thing when you just see the plan, but really it's, we need some place to put all this equipment and store, trucks full of wall panels, so we're not taking up the church's space.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, yes. Thank you. Franklin approves. And a second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Bryce, for your presentation. Item 9, staff updates.
All I really have is just an update on the process of getting an assistant city administrator / community development director, which we've agreed is sort of the stepping stone to then looking to get staff hired with that person's involvement, be a city planner and perhaps an economic development specialist ultimately. Been working with a consultant. There were 26 applicants. I've narrowed the field down, actually gotten down to about a handful now that we're looking at doing interviews in the first half of January. That would be with members of the council and staff and others participating in that interview process. So it's my hope that by the time we get toward the end of January, we'll have selected somebody that'll have said yes and potentially have them here, late February or thereabouts, depending upon having to give a certain amount of time to their current employers. That's really all I've got to add for an update tonight.
Thank you. Great update. Item 10, items for future agendas. Seeing none, who would like to adjourn the meeting? Yes. Okay, Mike and Kim. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you all. Merry Christmas.
Thanks again. I realize